It was on you.
Are we live?
Okay, but we need to, I need to get Cindy on Zoom.
Well, I need to call the meeting to order, don't I?
Yes.
All right, it's 1 o'clock, Wednesday, November 6th. It's a meeting of the Administration Committee. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the press and the public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. The first item is citizens' comments. I assume there's none. Approval of previous meeting minutes. We have the October 1st meeting minutes in the packet. Make a motion that we approve them.
Yep.
Any comments or changes? All those in favor? Aye. Old business, none. First item of new business is interview applicants for the Environmental Advisory Committee, which is Cindy Mars, who we're going to do via Zoom. Do we know how many applicants how many open positions we have, though? Is it one or two?
Did we verify with Belvin? No, we haven't heard back.
So what
Oh,
we,
here she is. I'll,
Yeah, okay.
while we interview, I'll. Hi, Cindy, can you hear me? She's connecting to audio now.
Hello?
Hi, Cindy, good morning. How are you? Good afternoon.
Let me see if I can turn on my camera.
Okay, great.
All right.
Perfect. Well, we can see you. You're not gonna be able to see us because I'm using my computer. So you would only see me, but you are, you're with the committee, the admin committee, chaired by John Bogosian and Ashley Carroll. Mayor Pounds is also present, and then the staff. I'll turn it over to Chair Bogosian, who will ask you a few questions about your interest in serving in the Environmental Advisory Committee.
Okay,
hey, Sandy.
thank you. And I guess, can you guys see me and hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very bright in my office today, so I wasn't really sure.
So where are you?
I'm in Boston.
Okay, Boston.
I was in Isle of Palms yesterday,
Yeah,
but unfortunately had to tear myself away from that beautiful weather.
yeah, it's beautiful again.
I know. I'm
So you're,
finishing up a 30-year career, so
Yeah.
I'm in the final stages. I have to be
Yeah.
back in my office.
so you're interviewing for the Environmental Advisory Committee. I think it's unclear whether we have one or two openings, but we at least have one. So what, we have your application, but why are you interested in that committee?
I'm kind of an Isle of Palms lifer, so I've been associated with Isle of Palms for 45 years. My family had houses in Waldoons, Isle of Palms. So I love the island. So I have it's just got a big place in my heart. So interest in the island, interest in climate issues. I'm on the Duke Climate Commitment Committee. And have been interested both professionally here with institutional investors and their investment in impact investing, and also through some of my work at Duke. I'm very interested in the environment and in climate. And I'm retiring at the end of the year, and I'm going to be on the Isle of Palms full time, and would love to get involved in the community and perhaps contribute my skills to some of the things that you're doing.
So, you know that, have you watched or been participating in any of the environmental committee meetings, or have you seen what they do?
I watched the last, was it the ad hoc committee on beach erosion?
Yeah.
Is that, I watched that. I think that's your committee. I wasn't really sure, but I did watch.
That's a separate committee, but the environmental committee is an advisory committee, so they make recommendations to council, but and there's four main areas on there that they have, one of which is climate change, but there's also litter and I forget the other ones, wildlife,
Water quality,
and water
litter.
quality, yeah. But what are some of the expectations you would have as part of that committee that you could get changed or see as a benefit for the island?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't come into it thinking about making changes. I think it's more, can you listen to the constituents and the needs of the constituents and make sure that, the issues are aired and represented, and balance the needs of the various constituents, relative to just making the island the place that we want to make it. So I think I can contribute because I've been on a lot of boards and I know how to listen and how to balance the various interests. And also I'm familiar, with the issues. I'm an intellectually curious person, so I like to learn a lot. I like to understand how other people deal with these issues, and kind of bring that to bear to solve whatever issues the island may be facing.
Okay. Ashley, you any?
So
comment?
nothing like specific that you're, is my mic on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry. Hello. So just curious if you had any like specific, project or agenda that you were wanting to specifically address on the committee. You see that the island needs attention.
I don't have a specific agenda. I mean, I am very interested in climate change and the planet, and being good stewards of the planet and the island, and turning it over to the future generations. I just built a new house on Isle of Pine. My father bought 2 lots after Hugo for $10,000 each.
Smart.
He sold me mine for $1, so I'm there for $1. And I just built a house, and that's a lifetime house for my children. So I'm hoping that island will still be there. They love it. They grew up coming there. Their grandparents lived there. So, I have a personal interest in keeping the island sustainable and going. So, that would be my only personal agenda, but I think that's a collective agenda. So it's not about, power or something to do or position or any of that. There's none of that. It's a sincere interest in the island and in the climate and in biodiversity, and making it sustainable for future generations.
Do you mind explaining a little bit more about your work with Duke and what that entails?
Sure. So President Price, who's the president of Duke, picked 10 of us, 10 alumni, to work over a 2-year period, and actually it's continuing to help the university get to net zero, and we just got to net zero. Unfortunately, we had to buy a few carbon credits to get there, because Duke Energy wouldn't let us totally get there. But it was looking at various technology, geothermal, solar, to try to make the university as sustainable as possible, and also to get to that net zero goal. So that was our first goal to do for the president, and then now he wants to turn Duke into the climate university, like Hopkins is for medicine or Stanford is for technology. He would like Duke to be the center of excellence for interdisciplinary work around the issues of climate. So, economics, policy, science, engineering. So it's setting the curriculum for climate, bringing in researchers, professors to teach interdisciplinary classes, and also attract students who are interested in climate change. And then that work is also extending to the state of North Carolina. So they have a marine lab near the Outer Banks where they do a lot of research, but also are trying to bring that research to bear into the state of North Carolina and apply that research in terms of helping coastal North Carolina and North Carolina as a state. So it's tremendous for the state of North Carolina, but I think that could be extended even beyond, into the state of South Carolina. And the Duke Endowment also is across the Carolinas, for funds for things like beach erosion or biodiversity or wetlands or sustainability. So it could connect to this because I'm also connected to other sources of funding for some of the initiatives.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm good.
All right.
I'm not sure I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it sounds like you did. So look, I don't think we have anything else, so thank you for your time. Again, we're going to make recommendations today that will go to council next week is it next week?
In December, the second week of December.
All right, they'll go to council in the second week in December for all the boards and commissions. So, again, thank you for your time and for your interest.
Yeah, thank you, Cindy.
Thank you. Yeah, and if, any way I can help or be involved, I don't,
Yep.
be it this or any other committee, I would love to get more involved in the community.
Well, you've got a great background, so thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Cindy.
you.
I'll keep you posted. I'll communicate with you any changes, recommendations from the committee.
Okay,
All right?
sounds good.
Take
Thank you.
care. Thank you for your time.
You too. Bye.
All right, so then the next item is discussion consideration of applications for boards and commissions. So we can entertain this at the same time of that under executive session, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I guess I would make a motion that in accordance with the freedom.
I would recommend you do that at the end. I know you have.
Okay,
you
so
we
we
can
can
go
skip,
through.
so we need
Yes.
to approve agenda change? Can we do-
No,
Okay.
you're fine.
Then what we'll do is, we'll go into, we'll do that at the end then. So the next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration of recruitment firms for the city administrator search. It's hard to say, hate saying
Yeah.
that.
Seems a little surreal.
So, not in the packet, but I think that everybody in the committee, we were sent 3 proposals. And so we'll take them one at a time, and we'll have people from each of the firms here to answer, either by phone or Kristen's here in person, to answer any questions that you have on their proposal. The first one would be the Find Great People. I guess as a summary, they're located in, I think, headquartered in Greenville, South Carolina, but have office here in Daniel Island. They do a lot of different kinds of searches, but they do also specialize in government or municipal searches. A lot of different examples of relevant experience here in South Carolina. Their process is outlined here in search strategy, and their cost is also in here, which is 20% of the first year's salary, essentially. So, is anybody, Kristen, I don't know if anybody has any questions, but she's here to answer if you have anything on their process or what they do or their experience.
I don't have anything at the moment.
Yeah. Philip, you have anything?
Do, hey, Kristen, you want to come up here and join us?
Yeah.
Kristen, can I get the spelling of your name?
CHRIS. Yeah. I'll email it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I know y'all just did a search with us last year.
We did.
I guess it was for our treasurer position. Is there anything in dealing with us that first time around that could have gone better? That you would have us
That's a great
learn
question.
and apply this time around it?
Well, I would say you all were very engaged in that process. So I got a lot of quick feedback, which is incredibly helpful anytime that we're working on a search like this. So we had checkpoints along the way. We got feedback very quickly whenever people started to interview. So, I mean, really on our end, we felt like the engagement was wonderful. When we're working on this kind of search, on a city manager search, the touch points are a little bit different because we're more involved, of course, with you all as a council. And so we'll set up on the front end some regular times that we'll connect either in a meeting setting, or even if it's just, hey, on this date, I'll send an update email so we can decide what works really well for you all in terms of communication. But we'll be really deliberate on how that setup looks on the front end, where the communication flows and you know what to expect, you can anticipate, when we need to have those conversations. It also allows us to pivot if for some reason we're not getting the response that we want, or if there's some sort of feedback that we're hearing from people as we're engaging with them and starting interviews. And that way, if we need to pivot the strategy, we can do that. We have time to do that because we've connected with you all along the way.
Which I know we did have to do that last year.
We did,
on the
yes,
search.
absolutely, absolutely. And finance searches, it's interesting. Finance searches right now, the last, I'd say probably 4 years have been particularly difficult. And you'll probably hear that regardless of industry. It's just the talent pool is shrinking year to
Yes.
year, which is really tough. And so, I would tell you any finance search right now, kind of across the board with our company, they're all challenging. So it takes a lot to get there.
And I know, looking at your timeline, I don't want to wake up in January and excuse the holidays for lack
Sure.
of progress.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do we make sure, I mean, we're going to make a pretty quick decision on Tuesday, but how do we make sure we don't lose momentum and we don't let the holidays get in our way? Because, I mean,
That's a great question.
y'all have done multiple searches for this role. It's a critical role.
Right.
Big shoes to fill, and I don't want to
the
waste
holidays
any
are on
time.
your
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair question. And I think, first, it's deliberate planning on our part, right, to make sure that during that holiday period, when people aren't working, that we're capitalizing on that some, if that makes sense. So I've got a very short period of time where I'm off, and it's actually a Friday and a Monday, so it's not too bad in terms of, other than the actual holiday days. So on my end, I'll be able to continue the work. The tricky part is just making sure that candidates are engaging with us during that period of time. If we were starting the search, I'm trying to think about dates, so if we were starting the search and we had postings out where, maybe the deadline to apply is mid-December. That gives us a chance to use those holiday weeks to finish out all of our vetting. So that way, when we come back from the holidays, then it's really off to the races in terms of the interviews with you all. So I think that period of time is a great time for us to finish background checks, finish all the media and social media checks, those sorts of activities that do take a few days. But we can really use that to position ourselves to be ready to just run whatever January.
Where do you anticipate most of the candidate pool come from?
Oh, that's a great question. You are in a location where lots of people want to be. So because of that, we will have applicants from across the country. We just will. And so what we will talk a lot about on the front end is how do we gauge culture fit? You have people from all over the country who live here currently, right? And so, in some environments, we know that a regional approach is best because of culture fit. I think with your dynamics, we really can be looking at all of these candidates coming from across the country. I think what we need to think some about is, what their experiences have looked like in terms of the kinds of environments that they've worked in. Did those have some similarities? Do they have any experience along the coast? Do they have experience with a highly engaged citizenry, right? And that's something that I've got several other clients who have that dynamic, right? And we know going in on those searches, we do have to think about, can someone manage that appropriately? Can they handle that? Because it's different than in some other environments. And so I think it's a really good question. And I think you're going to get a lot of interest, particularly from people who are maybe interested in moving south, whenever it's time for them to retire. And this is a great opportunity to move, continue to work, and do that, kind of move to the location they want to be in faster. So that gives them some great opportunity. I do think you'll get a lot of interest from South Carolina as well. So keep that in mind. I think you'll have plenty of people that are local that will express interest. I think you'll have a bigger volume from outside the area.
Yep.
Is my guess. Yeah.
And are you doing other city administrator searches right now?
Actually, just wrapped up some. So right now, this would be the only one that I'm working on directly. And I've got some other executive director type searches that we're working on. The focus on the city management.
And what are you made a comment about the treasurer or finance type positions. I mean, what are you finding with the city administrator type role? Because
Yeah.
that pool gets smaller and smaller too.
So good. That is also a question we get asked a lot. So I would tell you that I think with your circumstances, we're going to have a lot of seasoned city managers that are going to be interested in this role. I do think in order to have a really robust candidate pool, that you might want to be open to the deputies and the assistants who are ready to take that next step. And that's part of building the pipeline, right? So we know we've got people who are in the city manager seat right now or city administrator seat right now who are choosing to retire. So we're just kind of thinking about backfilling that. And thankfully, there are a lot of people that are in that deputy seat right now that are ready to take on, take on the number one seat. So, and really just kind of depending on your dynamics and preferences, that tells us whether or not, do we actively pursue those folks, or do we actively pursue people who are sitting in the seat? So, just have a lot of dialogue on the front to iron those things out. So, yeah.
All right.
Did that answer that question? Sorry.
Yeah.
All right, well, if there's nothing else, thank you for coming here.
Absolutely.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yeah.
Let me know if you need anything
And
else, but
we'll be back with you shortly.
appreciate that.
Yeah. So the next firm, I guess it's Slavin, right? Is the one we're gonna- Yeah, so it's, and that one's in your packet too. I can call this guy Bob Slavin and get him on the phone, but before I do this, I think we got this name from, they did Hardyville's search. It's a city of Hardyville search for a city administrator.
This one.
Yeah, they're located in Atlanta, in a suburb of Atlanta, there, Norcross. I guess this guy's been around quite a while. He's been with different companies. He's a founder of the firm, Bob Slavin. There's a list in here as well on some of their experience. They've done work all over the country. I tried reaching out to Hardyville and both Bo White and the mayor, and they never called me back. So I didn't get any feedback from them. Their cost is broken up into two pieces. I did clarify this with him. Again, I'll get him on the phone, but it's a fixed fee. Part of it's a fixed fee, if I can get to the page. And I think it's around $16,000 or so. And then there's another set of expenses that they bill us for. And the expenses are capped so that the total fee would be around $25,000 as a cap. So that's their fee structure. So you want me to get, you have questions for them as well? You want me to get Bob on the phone?
I mean, probably similar to what
You want
I
me
would
to
ask,
ask him
yeah,
the same
might
kind of
well,
question?
yeah.
6, 7, 8, 2, 9, 6.
Bob Slavin.
Hey, Bob, this is John Bogosian with the City of Isle of Palms.
Well, nice to thank you for returning for the call, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, you're on speakerphone here. We have our administration committee here. We have Councilwoman Ashley Carroll. We have Mayor Pounds and myself, as well as the current city administrator and our HR folks in the room. So we just went through your proposal, and there could be a couple questions. I reviewed it, and we discussed it somewhat of what's in it, but the committee members may have some questions for you.
Very good.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to respond to them, and anything any questions you have are be welcome. So we have done work near you folks, but not for you folks. So I look forward to being back there. It's a wonderful place.
Yeah, so I guess you're out of state, you're located in Atlanta. So my question is, how would communications go with you? How frequent would you stay in touch with us on the status of the search, and what would we expect in terms of communication from you?
The process outlined in the proposal basically describe the process which causes us to be there in person 3 times. However, we've just finished some work for Hardyville, and I had to, for them, I know I was there at least 4 or 5 times, but we were in constant communication. There was a mayor and council assigned one of their members to assist me, to be my liaison for that search, and I spoke with him several times, at least once a week, and several times most weeks. And then the mayor, who also would call and ask for information, I'd call him right back. The work we did for Georgetown a few years ago, the same way. There was an interim manager there who's now deceased, but he was our client contact. We met with him. Certainly the 3 times that are built into the proposal, and that's at the beginning, progress meeting, and then when you have candidates that you're interviewing. But we had the same way of operating or communicating with Georgetown was at least weekly, almost every week, more than a week. Same with Georgetown County, and that one was something that that work we got because the folks at the city of Georgetown recommended us, and that was an interesting job, and it was one that that we were very proud that resulted in a very successful placement. I don't know whether I'm rambling more than I'm answering your question, but the answer to your question is we consider our clients partners, and we work with you to accomplish the mission of finding the best capable. First of all, identifying the criteria, helping you to set the criteria, and then going out and identifying people who meet that criteria, and that does require a partnership. The reason we're in Atlanta, frankly, is that we have a national practice, and the airport here is very conducive to getting any place, and particularly in the southeast, back there and back in the same day frequently. Whereas when I began doing this work, I was in Los Angeles, and I was gone usually from sometime around late Sunday evening or Sunday afternoon to the following Saturday morning, and I'm not sure how productive I was. I was sitting on airplanes. So this allowed me to focus my attention on my clients and not on the transportation issues that were inherent with the way I was doing it. So Atlanta was an excellent choice, and the reason we're here is not because we were born and raised here, because it was a strategic decision to come here in order to service our clients well.
All right. Flip, you got a question around?
I do. Hey, Bob, this is Philip Pounds. A couple of things. So I know you did the Hardyville search recently. Do you have other city administrator searches going on? And my real question I'm trying to get to is, what's the pool like right now? Are you finding it limited? Is it more nationwide, or should we expect some pretty good interest from South Carolina specific?
I don't know how to answer that question succinctly, but the reality is I've been doing this since I think since God created executives, but for 40 years, and the industry's changed considerably. It used to be when I first started this, I worked for a major search firm, Korn Ferry International, and when we put a ad out, which you are almost compelled to do if you're working for a local government, we would get hundreds of resumes. Good number of those folks were not qualified, but we would get a sufficient number who were. Over the years, for lots of different reasons, the most significant was the COVID problems. But the other related or relative issues have to do with the increase the number of two-family incomes and reluctance of spouses to apply for jobs when in fact move would mean the loss of two incomes. Abbreviating that, we're getting more like 40 or 50 total resumes on jobs that are very attractive. The quantity is not the same as it used to be, but the quality is good. And the other part of your question was, do we have to go find them? Yes. Once we know what you're looking for, we go find them. And we would strongly advise you that you not limit yourself geographically, but if you have a preference for South Carolina or the Southeast, that's where we would focus most of our outreach work. But we would cast the net nationally through the advertising and social networking that we are, and professional networking that we do. That way, we don't have to redo it if in fact we don't get the results that you're looking for in South Carolina. If we've cast that net that wide, we can spread the search out without having to go back out and re-advertise.
Do you already have a bench of candidates from searches that you've done?
We have resumes. We have a data bank of candidates, and we just recently did the Hardyville search. So there's some very recent, and some of those folks are very good. Doesn't mean that they would be interested. Those folks would be interested in you or you and them. And in reality, a good candidate isn't. And you know, part of the answer to the first part of your question is we're in a very competitive environment. Good people don't last long. So if they apply in November of 2024, and we are looking for similar candidates in March of 2025, that first group probably, the best of that first group is probably employed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hey, Bob,
You know, that process is very helpful because we know it means that we have no qualified people. We are very, very careful to treat not just our clients well, that would be foolish not to, but our candidates well too, because if they're not, we're in an industry where a fairly close-knit and very large pool of city managers and related people, and word gets around. First, frankly, I was one at once, and I know how it is, what it feels like to be mistreated, and I also know how well, what a positive reaction I have to being treated well. So what I'm trying to say is I don't know of too many people in this country that I've worked with in the past that are candidates who we turned down that wouldn't return my phone calls the day I send them, the day I placed them.
and Bob, I see your project schedule outlined in your proposal. How do we, and I'm sure every client probably says this, but you know, I don't want to wake up in January and blame 45 days on the holiday of missing candidates or making our timeline go longer. I mean, how do we make sure because we'll meet Tuesday as a full council to decide which firm we're going with, but how do we make sure we hit the ground running pretty hard so that we make good use of the next 45 days that's left in this year?
The scheduling of the project is something that we'll want to do when we start it. So, and frankly, scheduling is great from our end because we can look at a calendar and put benchmark dates in it. But they don't do much good unless our clients. We need to see you at least 3 times. And you need to be available to us. If you're not, then the whole process is not going to work well. So we'll want to. That's one of the things we'll want to do at the beginning: is schedule the project. We cannot control candidates' time and availability. We can only get them to commit to a process and give them some idea about what the dimensions of that project in terms of time will be. And if we have some benchmark dates determined, like that they would need to be available, we will let them know about that at the beginning of our encounter or our relationship with them and let them be saving dates. So that's one of the ways we can do it. But and it usually works. So
I think one of the things we're worried about is the holidays. So is there anything that you can do, though, to mitigate the fact that we're entering into this search right in the midst of the holiday season?
we work around it. It's the holidays are a terrible time to ask people to leave home and travel, but they're not a bad time to be recruiting and gathering information. And you know, one of the horror stories in my past was a client in Colorado that wanted to hold city manager interviews. In Texas, wanted to hold city manager interviews on Christmas Eve. We warned years ago when I was still at Corn Ferry. My boss kept saying, "Well, that's what your client wants. That's what we'll do." Well, we had 5 good candidates, of whom only one was available on Christmas Eve. The rest. So it turned out he got the job, and he was there a long time, and then later became city police chief, sir, not a city manager, and later became the city police chief of Dallas. So it had a happy ending, but nobody was happy with me. But so you know, you have to look at the process in terms of reality too. Your job ought to be a very, very attractive job. But if you're asking people to be away from their family on Christmas in order to take the job, first of all, they're not going to do it because they don't want to do it to their family, and secondly, they're not going to want to work for you if you don't understand the fact that they have values. They value some things other than work.
Yep. Okay. Any other question?
Good question. I know there's a lot of varying factors that go into this, but just curious how long it took for Hardyville to, and y'all to decide and hire somebody. And then also curious if you could explain your fee structure just a little bit.
Fees are, in this business, you have contingency firms and you have firms like ours, which are not contingency firms. We establish our fees ahead of time, a contingent, and you pay us for our work. And our guarantee to you is that we finish it with a qualified candidate who is satisfactory to you in the job. And if that doesn't happen in the time frame that we've set out to begin with, it will happen because we'll keep working for you until it does. A contingency firm will only charge you if if they place a client there, but they also very frequently take fees from the people that they place. So I've lost the heart of your question. If you'd ask it again, I'd appreciate it.
Just curious how long it took the process from start to end, essentially.
I'm trying to think. They all are a little different. That one, I'm not sure that went faster than 45 days, but it was a process that. Oh, I know what it was. It didn't. It took a little longer, and the reason for that is that they had a candidate, not a candidate, but a manager who was on an employment agreement which ended the first part of last month. Maybe it was this month, November of 2024. We started that search early, and cautioned them that it was too early. We don't want to start a process and then have the resulting candidates and then no job available for several months and have those candidates kind of die on the vine. So we kind of slowed it down. And they also had in mind somebody who they were hoping would apply for the job, and in fact, that person did apply. And it wasn't set up for that individual at all, but it was the bottom line was that they knew that once he applied, and I talked to him, and he could wait. He was in a nearby community as an assistant, and it wasn't going to go anyplace, and he wanted that job. So it gave us a sense of satisfaction that no matter what happens, he's going to be available, and they know him and like him. So putting information into the mix, they felt comfortable that we would time the process so it resulted in interviews within a fairly reasonable short period of time between the selection of the new manager and the retirement of the end of the contract period for the outgoing manager. So I don't know. It probably added a month, 6 weeks to 6 weeks, maybe a month to the process, but it was intentional and it was strategic. So usually they run within the time frame that we establish. The beginning of the process is the establishment of the criteria, and that's critical. That sets it determines the process, and we don't change anything about the qualifications of the candidates in order to accommodate your criteria, or your criteria in order to accommodate the background of the candidates. It's something that becomes our Bible. So it takes a while to get that done. Then we were there. We put a draft of a recruitment profile together, which should pretty much echo what you've told us individually. Members of the council, mayor, have told us, and then it usually needs some adjusting when the draft is presented, and we encourage your very critical appraisal of it, and then we'll produce a final product. And once we have that, that begins the recruitment phase, and that's that 45-day period. So it's really not at the beginning, not when we first come to set up the profile. It's when the profile is approved, because once it's approved, that that's the time. At that point, you've agreed that we know what we're talking, what you have in mind, and we can go find it. So you'll see in that grid on that table in the profile that there's a 90-day period, and that was set up before COVID actually, and that was the point in time when we are ready, prepared to present candidates for interview to our clients from the date that we start putting the profile together. Now I'm also going to tell you that we talked a little about competitive environment, and we're trying to adjust. We have tried to, and very successfully adjusted our process to accommodate that situation. In doing so, we have basically stopped using final filing dates for people to apply, and rather assumed a system whereby we leave things open until filled, with a first review date that's fairly early in the what would have been a 40-day process, but then leave the process open until the job's filled. The reason for that is not because we don't think we can meet the time frame. It's because very often very, very good people submit their resumes early, and if they're as good as we hope they are, and I've found very often that they are, we don't want them waiting for some arbitrary final filing date that may be a month away, because they're not going to be there in a month. They're going to take another job, or at least the chances are that they will. So we've found that this process works pretty well, and when we use it, and this actually happened in Hardyville, although information I gave you earlier is accurate. We began to get good resumes early on, and one of the good resumes we got was the person that they wanted to apply. So they felt comfortable extending the process to accommodate the contract ending date of their current manager.
All right. Any final questions? Bob, thank you for your time. And we're gonna, I think we said, we're gonna take this to our full council for a decision next week. So we'll be back.
They appreciate it. If the holidays are something that we need to work around, and it sounds like you're anxious and that we will, then the sooner we or whoever you choose get started, the better.
Yep. Next week. All right. Thanks.
And you want administrator candidates the following week, I think, right?
Yeah, or that later that week.
All right. Oh, that's a little bit of time. Thank you very much for calling, and sorry about the confusion over returning your call the other day, and I didn't get it until yesterday when I called you back. So
yeah, no problem. No problem.
Appreciate it. You folks have a good afternoon.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
All right, the third one we have is Colin Basinger. Colin Basinger is not a local firm either. They're located in Florida. They do national searches, a lot of governmental searches. It looks like a lot of city administrators all through Florida, and then they've gone almost all over. But although when I look at their list of experiences, there's not a whole lot of South Carolina. I think that's, in fact, I don't know if I saw one, maybe one.
Maybe
Yeah,
one.
one, yeah. their process is, similar time frame. All of these guys in similar types of processes. Their fee structure is a fixed fee that they have, and I think it's, what is it, $34,500, which is quite a bit higher than what the other ones are. So this is a higher. I did talk to him. He's available. Get him by phone. We'll get him on the phone. But he's not willing to negotiate that price. He says they run a different process. I said, well, you should be prepared to discuss what the value of your extra cost is, and tell us why. But
I mean, they had a nice
I think
proposed
their
schedule.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
You know,
their
and their
layout is
packets were
not. Their
nice.
packet was
Yeah.
really good, and that's why I thought it was worth the discussion at least, because I thought their packet was probably similar or better than one of the best
Yeah.
that we'd received.
And how did we get to these folks?
Yeah, how did we find them?
They were asked through the last time that we filled the position to submit a proposal.
Okay.
So they were in the file. So
Got ya.
that's how I knew about them.
And we didn't choose them last time.
No.
Yeah. So I'll just get him on the phone. We'll ask him a few questions, and then we can make a decision. Five, six, one.
Sir, how are you?
Hey, Colin, this is John Bogosian with City Owl Palms.
Well, it's good to be talking to you again.
Yeah, so you're now on speakerphone in our administration committee meeting. Other committee members is Councilwoman Ashley Carroll, and Mayor Philip Pounds is here with me.
Okay, very good.
So we just kind of discussed your proposal in general, and I think there's a couple questions. And the one question that I'll lead off with is that your firm is in Florida. It's not, in local. And when I look through your list of experiences, South Carolina you do searches all over nationally, but South Carolina isn't one of the states that you're heavy in. And I was just curious to your opinion on that. Does that create some challenges in making sure that we're finding a good representative candidate pool?
I don't think so. One of the reasons why we're not that heavy in South Carolina is I don't think there's a huge number of cities with, large populations. It's, we certainly have experience dealing with coastal cities, and I think that's more important, and we've done those in Florida as well as North Carolina. South Carolina has been kind of a hole in our donut until recently, and most of our work there has been in the utilities. So, but our process is the same. Pretty much wherever we are, we just look in different places for candidates. South Carolina, obviously, we focus on South Carolina, North Carolina, and beach communities.
And how would you find the candidates, though? Just putting it on some posting on some place, or is there or do you have a more sophisticated searching mechanism to get good candidates?
We do. There's 4 ways we look for candidates. The first is networking. We're an executive search firm, so obviously we're supposed to be out there searching. So what we would do is pick out communities that are somewhat similar along the coast, probably focused mostly in North Carolina, South Carolina, and to some degree into Georgia, and start calling people. The second thing is advertisements. Obviously, we get some of our candidates by putting ads out there. You have a very attractive community. Don't know that a manager will be able to afford to live there, but you do have an extremely attractive community, and so it will draw good candidates, I think, even if you just posted it. But we do tend to do outreach, and then of course we have our email list, It has about 13,500 city managers and people that are interested in local government on it. And it's really, I think it's focused more towards the east of the Mississippi than the west, but they're on. People are there from all over the country. And then the final thing would be to go back into our database and see who we've talked to, who we know that we've worked with before maybe, or not been able to recruit, but we might be able to recruit this time and see if there's anybody there. And so, you put those 4 avenues together, and what it amounts to is our goal is to create a buzz in the industry about Isle of Palms. And it takes I think it takes 3 to 4 weeks to create that buzz. First of all, you've got the email going out, you've got the advertising, you've got us calling people, but there's a limited number of people you can call. They won't be in the thousands. So to some degree, the email works as, I don't know what to call it exactly, but it helps because people who receive the email may know Sally Brown, who lives in Colorado, that grew up in Isle of Palms, is a city manager and would love to come back, but she may not be on our mailing list. She might not see an ad, so they may pass it along. We've known that to happen fairly frequently, where people know other people and pass it along. So there's a long answer to a short question, I'm afraid.
Hey, Colin, I see your proposed time schedule in the packet. Thank you for putting that together. And I know a lot of this falls on us from a commitment standpoint too. But I mean, do you feel comfortable with that, given the holiday season and such? I mean, I don't want to lose any time here. So.
Absolutely. I mean, we wouldn't have put it in there if we didn't feel comfortable. And what I will tell you is we've been in business 26 years, and we've never missed a project deadline or milestone. So, any significance. So if you're agreeable to that schedule, we're agreeable to it, and you can take it to the bank.
Okay.
Your fee structure, I mentioned to you, your fee structure is higher than anybody else's, and you mentioned to me that, that's because you may have a somewhat different process. Can you elaborate what's different about your processes versus maybe some others, and what you justify the increased cost?
Well, there's several things. The first thing is that we actually will be out there recruiting candidates, and that takes time and money. The second thing is our background checks are the best in the business. And if you looked at one of the appendices, it's an article in the Fernandina Beach Observer. One of the manager comments there that they're the most thorough background checks he's ever been through. And that's a pretty common comment from people, that our background checks are similar to undergoing a FBI clearance or something like that. I wouldn't go that far necessarily, but they are very, very thorough, and that costs money. But we grew up in Florida as a firm, and in Florida, everything's a public record. I mean, you can't interview candidates in private, you can't whatever. And so if you present candidates that aren't clean, or at least you have an explanation for where there's an issue, then you're going to get a bad reputation. And so we believe in making sure that we know who our candidates are before we present them, and then that you can hire them without any further issues, and we can move forward and get the search done. Some of our competitors will do kind of a preliminary Google search and then focus on the one candidate that the city selects. And I mean, that works most of the time, but it does delay the process, because once you've selected a candidate, you have to go and do the background checks. And then if you turn up something, it can be difficult, because at that point you've already fallen in love with the candidate. and it's hard to back out. But, so we focus on getting the right candidates and getting candidates that have clean backgrounds. And we want to know that before we present them. We don't want you embarrassed, and we don't want to be embarrassed.
Got it.
Those are probably the two main things. I mean, people tell us there's other things that separate us. I got an email from a candidate in California, oddly enough, yesterday, commenting on our brochure and how well it was done in comparison to the competition.
Yeah.
Really did a great job of describing the opportunity and what the client was looking for, so on and so forth. So,
All right, well, great. Well,
Guess that was that.
Bye.
I'm just gonna, I guess I'll call him back and just tell him goodbye. Here he is. Hey, Colin. Yeah, yes.
I apologize.
Yeah.
Somebody was trying to call in, and I was trying to cancel the call. I hung up on you. I
Yeah,
apologize.
I've been there before. Yeah, I think that wraps it up. So no one has any other questions. So we're going to be making a decision to as a recommendation here today to take our city council on Tuesday next week for approval, and we'll be back because we want to get started quick.
All right, well, we're ready,
All right.
and we hope to work with you. We really want to do this job. You know, it's always great when you have a client that is I don't know how to put it, as gorgeous as
Well, thank you.
attractive as Iowa Palms is. That's what I'm trying. That's the word I'm looking for. So,
All right.
anyway, good luck.
All right.
Whatever happens, we hope it'll be us.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. So where are we? Those are the three. Three.
Executive session to discuss everything.
Do we need to go to executive session for that, for this?
For
or
the
can we-
firm.
The firms?
For the firm, this one says that this is only for, executive session is for the candidates on the city
Yeah.
boards and commissions.
Yeah, this would not be an item that would be
Yeah.
exempted from.
I mean, my sense is out of the three, I like Find Great People because a couple of reasons. One is we've got experience with working with them, and it seems to be a good experience.
Been very recent.
Yeah, very recent. And two is I like the fact that they're local, and that makes, I think, the whole interaction much easier. And I guess there's a third one, in that they do have, being a South Carolina company, they're located in Greenville, have office here. I think they've got that background of South Carolina, the culture of South Carolina, that may make things a little bit easier in terms of fit. But that's, I mean, if I'm gonna pick somebody to go with, that's kind of where my head is right now, but.
I would agree for all the same reasons, essentially.
The one thing I liked in Slavin, is their warranties are a little bit different than everybody else. They double.
They
it.
are.
So they go 2 years. I mean, I'd love to, whomever we pick, I'd love to put that on the table, that they won't recruit. And if the candidate leaves within 2 years or is terminated for whatever reason within 2 years, they'll do another search for free or for expenses.
Yeah, because theirs is 12 months.
Yeah.
And
Yep,
so
two-
is Colin
Yeah,
Mazinger's is.
or 12
is
too.
12.
He was the only one
Yeah.
with a
Yeah.
2-year
12 months.
timeframe. Be worth a
We can talk.
negotiating point, maybe.
Yep.
But I would agree with your comments
yeah.
on selection personally. And given the 5 minutes we spent with each one,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
like that better.
So maybe then what I would do is go talk to Kristen about that piece, but make I mean, I guess you and I are the ones that are gonna vote, right, until we make an adjustment. But I would say I make a motion that, we make a recommendation to city council that we approve, Find Great People as the search company for the city administrator position.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Hi.
So this is what we'll do, and I'll talk to Kristen about that, and I'll get back to the group on it, okay? All right. Backing up, We're now going to talk, discussion, consideration, of applications for boards and commissions for the terms expiring 12/31 of 2024. To do that, we'll go into executive session, or do we need to review what the open ones are here?
Well, so we have, coming up to expire at the end of this year, includes 3 positions in the planning commission, and these would be 2-year terms. 2 in the Board of Zoning, Board of Zoning Appeals, and their 3-year terms. And for the Environmental Advisory Committee, we have 5 positions available. These are 3-year terms. The rest of the members of the Environmental Advisory Committee serve 2-year terms. So these would be the original people that were appointed when the board was committee was created in 2021. We have not received a response from Belbing Olasoff, and I think in your packet includes those members that are would be interested in serving if they're reappointed.
Okay. All right, then I make a motion that in accordance, that we enter to executive session in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act, Section 30-40-71, to discuss appointment of candidates for the city's boards and commissions. Committees may take no action on matters discussed in executive session upon returning from the executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we'll go